No matter where you are in life, no matter who you are, almost everybody knows somebody that's in jail or in prison that shouldn't be.
My name is Keith Harris. I was incarcerated for 22 years and 9 months.
2 years and 5 months in Kane County Jail. Then after that, next 9 years in prison.
I was convicted of murder. The state's attorney and the police was looking for guys from Chicago, but I was the only one that they really went after for the murder.
My name's Peggy Jewel Jackson. I was wrongly convicted for the murder of my husband. And I'd done 26 years for murder in which I did not commit.
I went to the police station to clear my name up. And next thing I know, it was putting me in prison. They had wanted me and they got me.
I did all that time for nothing. They took my life away from me. You know, it's heartbreaking.
I was scared. I was scared. I said the same prayer 5 times a day. You know I need to do this and get me out of here. For about 7 years, I didn't really care about nothing. Then I started writing to all the innocent projects, law firms, because I didn't no longer want to be in prison.
When the whole of society, through a wrongful conviction, has turned away from you. When an Innocence Project joining in with your family and friends bolsters the efforts, not only before the court, but also within the heart and the mind of one wrongly convicted. When they began working with me and came to see me the very first time, I knew that there was more and more hope, that the day I would be free was growing closer to reality.
I was a mother, a farmer, a 4-H leader.
I was very high functioning. I was a PhD candidate.
A baseball coach.
I was raised not to lie, not to break the law. I'd never smoked a cigarette. I'd never gotten drunk.
Volunteered for the National Disaster Service, National Red Cross, Tri-State Search and Rescue.
I had shoveled stalls. I had sold poinsettias. I had taught at a university. I had been a counselor. I had done a whole lot of things and fit in fine everywhere in my life.
Within a split second, your whole life, everything that meant anything and everything to you can end by just a beat of a heart.
You know, when you think it can't happen to you, it happens. I know. It can happen. Tonight, any one of you sitting in here could be stopped on your way home, taken out of your car, into a county jail, and that could be the last bit of freedom you've ever had, and it can happen to you. When you lose somebody in your family to this, you start to realize just how important these Innocence Projects are.
I wrote the Innocent Project, and they came visit me. I gave them all my paperwork. They sent me a letter saying he's going to start working on my case. And about 9 months later, I was released.
It was like all of a sudden these people were like an extended part of our family. They weren't just people that work at a college or going to school or trying to become a lawyer. They literally became part of our family.
They like my family, and because when you go through something like that with people that do nothing but show you unconditional love and fight for you like they did, you cannot do nothing but love them.
It's just incredible. They just some incredible people who care about people and want to try to make a difference in this world.
These committed people who join in the fight have become not only your new family, they're also your heroes now.
These people came to them courtrooms back and forth, countless miles back and forth to court for us to help us come home. A lot of people just don't care. And when you get around a group of people that really do care like that, you can't do nothing but do whatever you can to help support what's going on and what the project has going on.
The battle isn't over when you are exonerated. It only means that now you have the right to fight for others rather than being the one others fight for.
If we all did our part, we can help each other. whether it's journalist, whether it's lawyer, and no matter what it is, you know, whatever piece or part you have to play with the program, it's a lot of work regardless. And so you get accustomed and you get involved with that person's case. So it's like it's like dominoes. You set dominoes up and push it, and that's how it is, like a domino effect, because everybody play their part.
That's why these innocence projects are so critical, is because if we want to have a system that works, we have to make it work. We have to have these checks and balances. We have to have a watchdog.
Coming out about 6:30 in the morning with a hot cup of coffee and sitting on the deck and listen to the birds starting to wake up and the fresh air, and just saying, this is what life's all about.
And the air, it's like two different airs. It's like when you walk out, it's truly like you being born again. Like, man, my life, you know, I had life, you know, as opposed to being on the other side, you don't feel like that. You feel lifeless. So the feeling to be around people that I know that help me and that fought for me to come home, to embrace my family again, to be around my family, to be able to eat what I want, you know. You can go to the bathroom when you want. You can shower when you want. You can basically walk out the door when you want. It's like life all over again. It's like being born again.
Today, I'm a caregiver to my mother. I have been actually volunteering, working at a no-kill rescue, helping to be a vet tech out there, helping with the animal care health-wise, and also with behavioral issues. After a few months out there, I was asked by the president of the organization to become one of the board members, which I am today.
My name is Jenny Brabham, and I'm vice president at God's Creatures Deserve to Live. She's really given a lot to the rescue, and we're so thankful to have her here as part of it. She's just an amazing, amazing woman, and I'm so thankful to be able to call her my friend.
If it wasn't for Illinois Innocence Project and their volunteers, I would not be here today.
Your role is critical.
You guys, with all your dedication, your humanity, caring, devotion, long hours, research, phone calls, campaigning for signatures, petition signatures, letters.
And all the lawyers and the students who work with them, it's just been wonderful.
Join the movement. There needs to be reform. There needs to be justice for the folks in our communities who've been snatched away and locked up for something they never did.
To say thank you for all that is very hard for me to do, because you cannot put back into word, you cannot put into words exactly true raw emotions of what you all mean to me and my family.
And it's not just helping the individual, it's helping reunite families. And I know we're one family that is extremely grateful.
You know, I'm very grateful, very grateful.
For those of you who fight for the wrongly convicted, thank you.
And thank you's not enough.
Keith Harris, please stand. Can we get the lights up? I don't think John Grayson has arrived. Is John here? Okay. Anthony Murray, please stand. Peggy Jo Jackson, please stand. And I'm going to add to that our special guest tonight, exoneree Brian Banks, who served 5 years in prison. Please stand. All of them for crimes they did not commit. Each of them innocent individuals. I know Sister Myra is here from the Dominican Sisters, and she joined me. Sister, please stand. Myra joined me as we traveled to Carlisle, Illinois, over the course of 2 weeks in the summer of 2006 to have Julie found innocent. Her battle is a reminder that even after achieving legal freedom, there remains the battle for inner freedom due to what the criminal justice has done to her. She wishes she had the strength to be here tonight, and she wanted me to convey her wishes to all of you and her support for the project. And we thank Amanda Altman in the back for her countless hours and skill for putting this video together tonight. Thank you, Mandy. You can see I probably wasn't the one who should guide the program tonight. I'm too close to it. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce our MC for the evening, Teresa Haley, a dear friend, a former student, and the president of the Springfield chapter of the NAACP. Teresa.
Good evening. You know, it's not over until God says it's over. And after watching that video and looking around the room, I would like to welcome you all to the 7th annual Innocence Project banquet. It is such a blessing to be here. Give yourselves a hand for coming out tonight. I'm kind of like Larry's daughter, so I don't see it on the program, but I'm going to do it anyway. And if you don't believe in God or have faith, just bow your head and close your eyes and think about whatever you want to think about. Lord Jesus, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the special opportunity to be here tonight to recognize our exoneree. We ask that you continue to move in our hearts and in our lives. We ask that the meal that has been prepared be used for the nourishment of our bodies. In Jesus' name we pray and ask it all. Amen. Dinner is now served. Thank you.
I mean, this is overwhelming. Thank you all for coming. I think when we put this together, we thought, yeah, we could get a big audience for Brian Banks, but I don't think we quite understood what that meant. And the reality of it is just taking place. So, or just having its impact. So thank you, Teresa. Thank you all for coming tonight to the 7th Defenders of the Innocent Awards event. Each year, it gets bigger and bigger and better. But bigness brings worries and complications of detail that are beyond our capacity as a project to handle. So don't sit down, Sheila. So rather than wait till the end, I want to thank and recognize Sheila Stock-Smith for the incredible work she put into what we're calling getting it right tonight. So thank you, Sheila. I know she didn't want that attention, but we did switch roles a little bit. Last year, when people were walking down the street and they saw Sheila coming towards them, they turned and ran the other way. This year, when they saw Larry Golden coming down the street, they tried to turn and run the other way, but I wouldn't let them. So the Illinois Innocence Project exists within the University of Illinois at Springfield, as most of you know. And the provost, Lynn Pardee, is with us here tonight. And I'd like for her to please stand and be recognized. Along with Lynn is also David Racine, the director of the Center for State Policy and Leadership. And we could not do what we do without David's personal support in terms of holding up the shoulders of both myself and John Hanlon, but also, when necessary, trying to help us find the resources for getting done what we need to do. So David, would you please be recognized? Some have said that Lynn is a little shy, but David is, I think, even shyer, and so you noticed he sat down barely as quickly as he got up. So, but the friendship that we've developed has been really one of the highlights of doing this work, and please join us in thanking them for the support that they give us that allows us to do this work. This is an annual fundraiser, and all who contributed play a critical part in helping individuals who are, in fact, innocent to get them out of prison. Those who could contribute more than the cost of a reservation are listed as supporters in our insert to your program. I hope you'll take a second to look that over, and I hope that you'll also take a second to thank those of you who you know as the evening goes by. We could not do this work without their help. Tonight marks a special milestone in our fundraising effort as we announce the inauguration of what we're calling our Guardians campaign and recognize the first group of supporters who are providing us with what I'm calling an insurance policy, a commitment over 5 years to allow us to focus on helping free the innocent rather than having us go to them constantly and asking them for funds. Their support is absolutely critical, and it's so appreciated. I want to particularly thank Fletcher Farrar. Please stand, Bud. And he gave me a dirty look, but the next one I'm sure will be worse, which is Bud Potter. Please stand. And he's over here. He will not take orders from anyone, so I'll have to talk to Mary Jo about whether the anyone actually is true. But without the two of them, they provided the leadership for getting this whole effort started. All of the founding guardians are listed in the program, but I would ask those who are here, and a number of them could not attend tonight, to please stand and be recognized. So all of you who are listed, please, as founding guardians, please stand. Nancy and others. Come on, I know there's a group of you in here. Pat, Jackie, Pat Joyce. The modesty that people have in not wanting to be recognized is actually touching, because we know that the reason that they're doing this is not because of the public recognition, but because of the work that has to be done. Also listed in the program tonight are those such as the university bodies who have provided in-kind donations. But there's one omission, not that Sheila made, that needs special attention. Many of you might be aware that on Monday evening, starting at 5:30, our special guest tonight, Brian Banks, will be the featured guest at a fundraiser for the Illinois Innocence Project in Chicago. The event will be at a venue called Bar Louie. We're very fortunate to inform you that the fundraiser is being hosted by a renowned Chicago defense attorney, Sam Adam. This is no small deal. Anybody who is willing to host an open bar for 2 hours for an after-hours event for Chicago attorneys is a generous soul. And we want to thank Sam, who could not be here tonight. He wanted to be, but could not be here tonight, for his generosity and his support. There are many other people here tonight who should be recognized by virtue of their positions of leadership. So I would ask you to join me in expressing your appreciation for attendance. Please hold your applause until the end of these intros. Senator Dick Durbin and his wife Loretta, U.S. Attorney for the Central District of Illinois, James Lewis, United States Magistrate Judge for the Central District of Illinois, Jonathan E. Hawley, Chief of Staff, Illinois Governor Pat Quinn, Ryan Croak, Deputy Legal Counsel for Illinois State Senate John Cullerton, Giovanni Randazzo. And let me add, by the way, Giovanni was a student of mine, and his father and I have been friends for years. He owns Galina's Pizza out at Capital City Shopping Center, where I spend occasional evenings philosophizing and catching up on the grandkids. And so it's great to have Giovanni here and in that position. Associate Judge in the 7th Judicial Circuit, Brian Otwell. Roger Heaton, former U.S. Attorney for the Central District of Illinois. And past awardees, Stephen Beckett, Michael Metnick, Peter Wise from Gates, Wise, and Schlosser. And I want to particularly, at the risk of maybe singling people out, I want to mention Mike Metnick. It's great to have you here, Mike, really. Mike has been a longtime leader in the innocence movement, one of the best criminal defense attorneys, if not the best, in Central Illinois for many years, and just recently retired from his practice, and it's really great to have him here, that he could join us. So thank you, Mike. And that's the group. Thank you. I don't think Corey Job is here. If he is, I missed. He was intending to come, and Ward 6 Alderman here in Springfield. Finally, we could not accomplish the work that we do without a great staff and many students and attorneys. I'm going to ask all of them, the students, staff, attorneys, to please stand and be recognized by the audience. So all of you would do this critical support work. John. Hey, get him to stand. Come on, wait a minute. Stay standing so people can see you. All of them. I will end on a positive note with 2 expressions of appreciation. Will Jackie Jackson please stand? Jackie and I go back a long way, 43 years to the founding of Sangamon State University. She's remained a steadfast friend and has become an important supporter of our project, including becoming a founding guardian. It is with great joy that I share with you that Jackie chose to join us tonight for her 86th birthday celebration. She invited many of her friends and said this would be a great place for a birthday party, and so she's doing that. Secondly, will Anthony Murray please stand? You know, it's been a year and a half since Anthony got out of prison. In that year and a half, John Hanlon and I and Ron DeKeach and Mandy, we've been plugging away trying to help Anthony find a job. A year and a half. Hasn't been able to find work. One of the greatest guys we know. Lives up near Chicago. Well, the great news is that when it rains, it pours. I was going to announce that he started a job on Monday, but it turns out that he had an interview this morning for an electrician's position, which will pay substantially more than the work at Culver's. And he's going in for an apprenticeship and will be starting work, hopefully, very soon as an electrician, and we really wish you well. We thank Lorenzo Loudon of the Towers of Refuge here in Springfield for his help in making contact with a colleague in Chicago who helped Anthony get the job. And we're wishing Anthony well as he starts this new venture. Senator Richard Durbin needs no introduction to this audience. He has remained our collectively, advocate for social justice in the United States Senate. As such, he's been a strong supporter of the work that we do of the Illinois Innocence Project. We welcome him to share a few comments tonight as we open this program. Please welcome Dick Durbin.
Thanks to Larry Golden, and thanks to all of you. And Brian, thank you for joining us tonight. It's a great honor to have you here this evening. I think everybody in this room understands the importance of the work that's done by the Innocence Project, but perhaps you don't really appreciate the reach of this effort. It wasn't that long ago when the issue of the death penalty on a political basis was not something that was brought up. In fact, one of the candidates for governor of our state who happened to oppose the death penalty had that used to defeat her not that long ago. But things have changed, and a lot has changed because of evidence and justice. And what we see emerging now, finally, is a reevaluation of our penal system, long overdue. I have a bill in Washington called the Smarter Sentencing Act. And this piece of legislation takes the mandatory minimum federal sentencing and basically on the low end of it lowers it further, giving the judges more discretion, at least an opportunity in cases, drug offenses without guns or gangs or violence, gives an opportunity for lower sentences. What is amazing about this bill, long overdue after 30 years of getting tough, is the support. You see, in 30 years, we've seen an increase in the federal prison population of 500%. We've seen an increase in the cost of 1,100%. My co-sponsor of this bill is Mike Lee, a Tea Party Republican from Utah. And Mike has been rounding up co-sponsors of the Smarter Sentencing Act on his side of the aisle. He called me and said, I just got Jeff Flake from Arizona. Jeff Flake? Yeah, got him. Wow. He called me shortly thereafter and said, I just got Rand Paul. Rand Paul? But hold on. At the committee, when we reported it out at the Judiciary Committee, he said, and I'd like to have unanimous consent to add as a co-sponsor Ted Cruz. I said, at this point, I'm going to reread this bill. All kidding aside, we are finally getting out of the shadow of Willie Horton in a national conversation about corrections. And we are finally reaching a point where we're asking some questions long overdue. I've had 2 hearings that I think may get us started toward moving on the federal basis, what has already happened in the state basis, to start changing dramatically segregation and solitary confinement in the United States. That is long overdue. States that are leading the way, Mississippi is leading the way in reform. We've had the 2 hearings now, and at each of these hearings, we have had people, one who came to us from death row in Texas after 12 years in solitary confinement, who could barely testify. He was such an emotional wreck. And a hearing 2 months ago, this fellow had been in solitary confinement in Louisiana for 15 years before he was exonerated and released. He's now a truck driver between Minneapolis and Chicago. And we're starting to see finally a conversation, finally a movement. Where did it start? Well, it started in a democracy which entertains new ideas, but it started when the evidence was presented by the Illinois Innocence Project and so many others where there had been miscarriages of justice. Do not underestimate the impact of the people gathered in this room and the impact of this organization, not just on the individuals who are exonerated, finally given their chance, but on our national conversation when it comes to justice. Thank you.
Let's give our Senator of Illinois another hand. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to bring up our Executive Director, John Hanlon. Let's give John a hand as he comes forward.
Well, I can safely say that in my life, out of the heroes of my life, you all are here. It's really moving to see so many people from so many important endeavors. My old friends from the Appellate Defender and Senator and my coworkers. It's very moving. And Brian and Justin, new heroes. This is very rewarding. I want to make you all aware of some critical trends in the world of the Innocence Movement and Innocence Projects. One trend is that the importance of the Innocence Movement and projects has never been greater than now. In fact, according to the National Registry of Exonerations, .com, the highest number of exonerations ever in the United States occurred in 2013. This is going on right now. This is not a declining trend, this is an uptrend. These exonerations revealed some further critical developments, the first two of which might seem counterintuitive, but which really should open our eyes that innocent people can be convicted in all kinds of circumstances. The first trend is that exonerations are occurring after cases where the defendant originally pled guilty. And we have Brian Banks here tonight, and Brian, I'm sure, is going to talk about that circumstance of his case. Increasingly, also, exonerations are occurring in cases where no crime occurred. Where no crime occurred. And even I, in the middle of this, when I first heard that, I thought, wait a minute, what does that mean? But that's 1/5 of the 2013 exonerations, no crime cases. And a very positive factor is that increasingly, exonerations are occurring in cases where the defendant and the prosecution work together and ultimately agree that the person is innocent and that the person should be released and exonerated. This has been a goal of mine to further this effort to work with prosecutors. I'm very encouraged that this is something that good prosecutors are figuring out is actually not only to their benefit politically, but also obviously in furtherance of justice in the appropriate cases. So I'm working with a good number of prosecutors in that regard, and frankly, I'm very proud to be a lawyer in those cases. Very proud. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Another trend is the beginning of statistical models and applied case information toward determining, this is a question I get a lot, toward determining how many people are in prison are likely innocent. And very recently, it was nice of the National Academy of Sciences to release their study just a few days before our event. That study just released a few days ago showed that 4.1% in their model, 4.1% of people on death row across the country are likely innocent. Now, this is the National Academy of Sciences. You know, this is not an Innocence Project number, it's the NAS number. And the study is frankly very disturbing. That's 1 out of 25 people. So that's something else that we took great note of. And a final trend to mention now is in the area of increasing awareness of the shortcomings of various types of forensic evidence, so-called forensic evidence. As a part of this, in 2014, we will be announcing, the Illinois Innocence Project, will be announcing a major endeavor and collaboration with law enforcement pertaining to a certain type of forensic error that has occurred in Illinois cases that involves still incarcerated Illinois inmates. I'm being deliberately vague. I don't want to step on the toes of the process at this point, but it's something that we're very proud of and that we will be announcing in the coming months. And that frankly, in light of similar models that have occurred on the federal level, that we're sure is going to result in further exonerations. We have a large number of cases that are in testing in the lab as we speak, and several more that are on their way to the lab, literally, as we speak. And we're very confident that when we meet again next year, that yet another trend will be additional exonerees to present to you all in 2015. Thank you very much.
Wow, Illinois, we are definitely some trendsetters, right? John, you are so kind, but you have my paperwork. Let's give John a hand as he brings my paperwork back.
Okay, you pick out which ones are yours.
Okay, let's get this party started, right? All this great information. We're doing some great things here in Illinois with the Innocence Project. At this time, I'm going to read an award. Anthony Tony Sanchez has been an Illinois attorney since 1993. He represents the Illinois Innocence client, Pamela Giacozelli, since 1999, and entirely pro bono since 2005. Tony, as he likes to be called, is an experienced litigator, and most of his career, he has remained committed to Pamela's innocence. Pamela was convicted for murder in 1999 based on a theory of shaken baby syndrome. You guys know what that is? Okay. Tony represented Pamela in a civil lawsuit brought by the victim's family and in her post-conviction petition and appeals. Most recently, in September, he devoted an entire week of pro bono to represent Pamela, and in a post-conviction exoneratory hearing that was the result of his work, successful appeals to achieve and to remain to DuPage County. He spent thousands of hours, time including countless weekends and evenings away from his family and learning about the controversial, complex science behind shaken baby syndrome diagnosis, and was prepared for the September hearing. Tony mastered the new scientific evidence that now disproves the state's theory and the prosecution. He has worked tirelessly to explore every avenue to relief for Pamela, to prove her innocence, including spending clemency petition before Governor Quinn. We thank his family and his firm for supporting him on Pamela's behalf. The Illinois Innocence Project could not have done this important work without Tony and the attorneys like him. You guys, let's give him a hand just for that. Tony is the driving force behind Pamela's case and will be for that reason of her exoneration. He continues to work on Pamela's behalf and the project and the media to bring attention to Pamela's case and to further her pending clemency petition before Governor Quinn. We and Pamela cannot thank Tony enough for his devotion and his experience that he brings to her case. And for that reason, tonight, we are proud to present the Illinois Innocence Project Defender of the Innocence Pro Bono Award to Tony Sanchez. Tony?
Thank you very much. Thank you for Erica for giving me the trophy, the award here. Erica should be considered for the Lifetime Achievement Award because she came up with me in September after a couple of years, actually, of working with me and provided absolutely invaluable help. I also hope I can speak as well as those exonerees on the video we saw at the beginning of the night. But it's an honor to be considered, much less receive this award from this university and this organization with such a rich social justice history. It's also a great honor to be honored with those who really gave a lot more than I did, and that's the other exonerees here tonight and the past exonerees. They gave their life, time in their life that they can't get back. All I did is do what my profession is. So I certainly this year's exonerees, Brian and Peggy Cho, both have experienced life-changing circumstances and experiences, and they've experienced the criminal justice system both at its worst and at its best. And for the time that they've lost in the failure of the criminal justice system, I am sorry. While I have been given this award, I am really just a figurehead. Throughout the years, I've had a lot of help. I've had a lot of support, and this award is not just for me. I'm just the one lucky enough here tonight to receive it. But among those that I'd like to thank are my employers throughout time. Originally, Aldo Badi, whose firm I worked with in Oak Brook, took this case on appeal. And after the appeals were done, I happened to get in touch with some doctors to lead me onto the theory that attacked the basis that attacked this theory. And he allowed me to continue working on this case, even though it was on a pro bono basis. And once I left his office, he was generous enough to let me take it and continue with the fight. I'd like to thank my wife, Chris, who allowed me to spend a lot of my free time and time that I would normally spend with her and the family because she believes in Pam's case and she believes in this as well. She's as much to thank for the efforts as I am. My paralegals and assistants throughout the years have given me a tremendous amount of support. Most recently, who Erica knows well, my assistant Christina Walker back at our office has done a tremendous amount of work for me and in addition to the two other partners she works for to help with this case, including weekends and nights, I know. The many law students from the project here who have worked on the case throughout the year did a fantastic job. Whenever I needed some of the difficult work of summarizing medical records, summarizing past appellate records, arguments, they did a fantastic job, and I can't be grateful enough for saving me a tremendous amount of time and giving me an absolutely professional quality product. My friend who's here tonight, Mark Rapino, is an attorney that I've done a lot of cases with throughout the years, and he, throughout the dark times and low points of this case, continued to talk me through it and get me up and have me keep going on it. My current firm, which took me in knowing that I'd be spending a lot of time on this case in supporting that decision. Our experts that we had on this case, thanks to the Innocence Project. Years ago, in November of 2009, I received a second reversal from the 2nd District of Appellate Court on the post-conviction case here. And it was after the Audrey Emmons case where certain leading doctors like Pat Barnes in California, I believe Pat Lance as well, John Plunkett, all testified and really was substantial in a movement that really took this theory apart. And I got this reversal from the 2nd District sending the case back for post-conviction. At the time, I was a solo practitioner. And I see all of these world-renowned doctors on this affidavit. It was the roadmap on how to attack this. And the first thing that came into my mind was, great, what do I do now? Is Pat Barnes going to pick up the phone for me? Is John Plunkett now that I know him, they would have, but back then I didn't realize that. I'm here on a claim of ineffective assistance at counsel, and now the appellate court has given me the opportunity to be ineffective at the evidentiary hearing that they just ordered. And I got in touch with the Innocence Project, and they did a fantastic job putting me in contact with these leading doctors who spent countless hours informing me, each addressing their specialties as they relate to this particular theory. And very briefly, some of these experts, Chris Van E., Dr. Pat Barnes, Dr. John Plunkett, Dr. Pat Lance, Attorney Heather Kirkwood in Seattle, and in particular, Dr. Shaku Tees, who spent a lot of time with me educating me as to this theory, and especially Dr. Peter Speth, who was with me in the beginning of this. And really, if anybody is responsible for my level of understanding this theory, it's him. He spent countless hours and nights, and they weren't always pleasant conversations, but they were very, very productive, and he was one of the people that kept me going. Last and not least to thank is the Innocence Project themselves. As I said, I got the remand for this hearing we had in September with no resources, no contacts as to do what the appellate court told me to do. So I thank them. Finally, the reason why you do this, and the reason why you do this as an attorney, is because it's the right thing. We have a rare opportunity to fix wrongs. Shaken Baby is a wrong theory. I'd ask, thank you for your continued support to the Innocence Project. Pam's case is still pending. We have a clemency petition before the governor right now that has not been ruled on. If you can do anything, please look it up on the internet to get more information about it. Please contact the governor's office, write them letters. The most recent case involving Jennifer Del Pratt that was reversed and vacated by the federal court in Chicago is almost an identical case. Governor Quinn can do something about this, and it's really the right thing to do. So any support you can give for Pam ongoing would be appreciated, not only by me, but most importantly by her. Thank you very much.
Let's give Tony another hand. Our next award. When the history of the Innocence movement is written, the name Justin Brooks must be predominantly featured. If Justin's incredible work is not highlighted early and often as such a history, don't even bother to read it because it's inadequate. That history will include so much incredible work on behalf of his clients, 23 of whom have been exonerated from their wrongful convictions. 23, let's give them a hand for that. Just ask Justin Brian Banks, who will speak a little later tonight. Justin devoted his efforts, which included incredible works on behalf of the Innocence Network of 56 organizations across this country, within which he is a leading voice. And it includes his work as an instructor and a leader author in these issues of his academic position at Cal Western Law School in San Diego. But Justin, amazingly, did not let his work and this movement stop at the borders of this country. He took it internationally on behalf of those who have been wrongly convicted around the world, particularly in Latin America, where he has worked tirelessly to make the Innocence movement an international phenomena. There can be many measurements of leadership, but few could be more bold, meaningful, than taking their words across the world. This is exactly what Justin Brooks has done, and is doing. When it comes to leading the march from the Southern California to the governor's mansion in Sacramento last year on behalf of numerous clients of his project, guess who was leading the pack? This is a brief summary of the things that Justin Brooks' tirelessly leadership has done for the innocent movement in this country and across the world. And it is that reason that, and many others, that the Board of Directors for the Illinois Innocence Project are proud to present the 2014 Illinois Innocence Project Leadership Award to Justin Brooks. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you so much. This really is humbling. I don't feel like I do anything different than the thousands of defense attorneys across the country, around the world, who fight for their clients every day. I'm incredibly lucky to do the work that I do. I was talking to my son this afternoon, and he's graduating from college in a couple of weeks, and we were talking about what he wanted to do with his life. And he is addicted to sports. He spends hours a day on the internet looking up statistics. And that's really what he wants to do with his life. But we talked about, what I've done with my life and his own path and what he's passionate about and what's going to drive him for the next 40 years. And that's really what that conversation has to be about. And this is kind of a homecoming for me here in Springfield, because my journey in the innocence world started here in Illinois. I was teaching law school in Michigan 20 years ago when I heard about a young woman on death row here in Illinois. And the newspaper article I read said that she was sentenced to death on a plea bargain. And that made no sense to me then, and 20 years later, it still makes no sense to me that somebody could end up on death row on a plea bargain. It's two words, actually. And so, I'm not sure what they were waiving, torture, or what else was on the table in terms of that negotiation. But I came out here and I met John Hanlon. John and I have known each other for 20 years and worked on that case together. And I worked on it with law students. I recruited 4 students from my criminal law class. I said, there's this woman on death row in Illinois. She never had a trial. She never had an investigation. Who wants to help me out? And 4 brave souls raised their hands. And that, for me, was the beginning of the Innocence Project for me. And we worked together, investigated that case, and found out not only was this woman sentenced to death without a trial, but she was factually innocent, that there was very strong evidence of her innocence, and had her case been investigated at all, they would have found that out. We got that case back for resentencing and got her sentenced to life, because that was the best we could do. The courts refused to withdraw her guilty plea, and all we could do is get her sentenced to life. So yesterday morning, I flew out here and drove to Lincoln Women's Facility, because there she sits 20 years later, the first case I worked on. And it's hard, because I know that for the last 20 years, she's seen me walk so many people out of prison, and it's never been her. And it really is, for me, that one case, like, I feel like I can never put down, because it's the case that got me started in this. And I can remember vividly the night I was sitting in my car, freezing cold, at 26th in California, after her case, deciding that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, that I wanted to get innocent people out of prison. I wanted to work with law students and train them to be really good lawyers. I wanted to work on legislative reform so things like that didn't happen. And I went back and quit my tenured faculty position in Michigan, and I started the California Innocence Project. And it is so important tonight for me to say, as an Innocence Project director, and I've worked with Larry for the past 15 years or so, how important it is to support this work. When I started my project, the majority of our funding came from the rock band The Eagles. Okay? For those of you who are too young to remember, look up a song called Hotel California. And the Eagles have been our biggest supporter over the years. And that's just so strange. I mean, because what we do is we're doing mop-up for the justice system. You know, we're out there getting people out of prison, and every time we get someone out of prison, it saves the government $40,000 to $60,000 a year in housing costs. And that's just take away all the other associated costs when someone's wrongfully incarcerated. That's just the raw money that we spend housing them. Forget about their families and social services costs and everything related to the pain of a wrongful conviction. And yet, when we look for funding, we have to go to aging rock stars to keep this thing moving, something that really the government should be doing. And there's nothing better you could invest in terms of bang for your buck, because our students work for free. It's awesome. They do things you can never get a lawyer to do, and they do it for free. They get in their cars and they drive hundreds of miles to track down evidence. They drive out to prisons to meet with clients and gather statements. And when we're raising money, it's for things like gas money to get out to those prisons, which are usually in the middle of nowhere. And it's to pay for copy costs for transcripts, and it's to get crime scene photos, and it's to get expert witnesses involved in our cases. You know, it's not to pay for expensive CEOs. It's not to pay for luxury offices. It's not to pay for huge attorney's fees. It's just the basic costs that we need to operate these projects. And that's why I beg you to support this project, because this work has to happen locally. And that's why I helped get a project going in Bogota, Colombia, and in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and we have a project in Santiago, Chile, and we have one in Tijuana, and we're starting one in a few weeks in Mexicali, and I've got 2 projects I've launched in Puerto Rico, because it has to happen at a local level, and it has to have local support, and it has to have people like you that are propping it up, or it just doesn't happen. So think about that. And think about these lives that are affected by this, because you really can't support anything better. And the person I'm going to introduce tonight is a good friend of mine and a client of mine. And I was thinking as I was sitting there, you know, I've introduced Brian many times. I'm not ready for the introduction? Not ready for the introduction. I was just moving, I was doing a transition there, lad. I was on a roll. So what's the break part? Oh, I'm done. That would be the worst ending in the history.
I've always wanted to do that to him.
That would be the worst transition. I can't just be done. So now I say thank you very much and I sit down. Is this one mine or is that one mine? Thank you very much. I'll be back.
I hope I read my paper, not Teresa's. I'm here to present the Director's Award of the Illinois Innocence Project. It's a real honor and privilege. Every successful organization has a person who is effectively the hub of the wheel, the person who really makes things happen on a daily basis. We can probably all of us recognize that person in our own places of employment. It's the person who has things thrown at them in virtually every area of responsibility, right? We've all seen that. Who is given way too much to do, and who does the things that often nobody else wants to do. We've all seen that person. The directors of the Illinois Innocence Project believe that it's about time that our hub was recognized publicly in front of our supporters, exonerees, friends, and others. And so for the first time ever, we are presenting the Illinois Innocence Project's Director's Award. This award is given to a person who has given consistent and extreme effort and utter devotion to the work of the project on the whole, but in particular its students, its clients, and their families. Among many other tasks, she has supported them all with information, encouragement, many late-night hours, and much more. If you ask Anthony Murray, where's Anthony? If you ask Anthony Murray or his mom, who kept them afloat before Anthony's release, they will certainly say that it was Rhonda Keach. Hang on. We're not quite done yet. Hang on. If you ask the directors who initially and throughout pushed Joe Jackson's case, it was Rhonda Keach. And if you ask this director who brought John Grayson's first letter, I remember it very well, his first letter to our office, into my office then, and said, you better look at this one right now. It was Rhonda Keach. I'm not sure that John would be out if it wasn't for Rhonda. I'm not sure. He's sure out a lot quicker based on her work. So much more could be said about Rhonda and her work, but for now, we will simply say this. The directors of the Illinois Innocence Project are proud to present the 2014 Illinois Innocence Project's Directors Award to the hub of their wheel, Rhonda Keach.
Those of you that know me know that I do not do public speaking, especially after Justin Brooks. Wow, how do you follow that? If I had to think of a job that could be any more rewarding than the job that I am lucky to have, I don't know what it would be. I am thrilled to come to work every day. I'm honored. My rewards are Joe, Anthony, Keith, I don't know where you are, and John and Brian. You guys are the heroes, and it's a team effort. It takes a lot of people to do the work that we do. It's not just one person. We've got a great team. Our students, our UIS students, are just phenomenal. Every day they do things to just amaze and wow me. They make my life and my job so much easier. And it's an honor to be a part of this project. And thank you all so much.
Okay, so now close your eyes and think of the most inspirational thing anyone has ever said to you. And imagine that's how I ended my last comments. So, about 18 months ago, I found myself sitting in a hotel room in Kansas City on the internet looking through the depth charts for linebackers, the Washington Redskins, trying to figure out, was that a good place for my client to go try out for their football team? That makes as much sense to me as maybe some of you, but that surreal experience occurred because of Brian Banks. Now, I've had the chance of walking people out of prison and bringing them back to their former lives and watching them, survive and get back on their feet. But one thing I've never been able to be a part of is giving someone their dreams back and helping facilitate that, to try to get somebody back to where they started as best we could. And Brian Banks was a superstar athlete in high school. He was someone who was destined to go play in the NFL. One of the saddest things I heard about Brian, and Brian didn't hear it, and I don't even know if I've ever told him it, but was when he was doing a tryout for the Chargers, and a Chargers coach looking at him, running up and down the field, and saying, had this kid gone to USC the way he was supposed to, and gone through that system, he wouldn't just be playing in the NFL, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Because even after 10 years of not playing football, and even after not having any college training, and even after not playing his senior year of high school football, he still belongs on an NFL field. And that's both tragic and awesome at the same time. I was so heartened to hear the senator talk about that we're in a post-Willie Horton world. I really hope that that's true, because what Brian represents is that our criminal justice system is to the point where an innocent person would plea. I think it's so important that his story is heard because of that. And if you think about that for a second, that someone would sit and make a business decision to plea to something they didn't do, and that's where our sentences have gotten us. In California, you are risking spending the rest of your life in prison when you don't take a plea bargain. And when you're a 17-year-old kid and you're arrested when you're 16 and you're sitting in a room by yourself and a lawyer is telling you, you want to roll the dice in the criminal justice casino, go right on in there. It's an all-white jury and you're looking at 44 years in prison. Or take this deal and you might get probation. That's a broken system. It's clearly a broken system when people will choose to plead to something they didn't do because it's too risky to do otherwise. And so Brian definitely represents the all-American dream of someone who had lost football and got it back and got his life back, but he represents something bigger than that. And he represents what we need to do to fix the criminal justice system. So I'm very pleased to introduce you to my friend, my client, middle linebacker from the Atlanta Falcons, Brian Banks.
Thank you so much for the warm welcoming, for the invite. Larry Golden, love you, brother. Thank you so much for having me. Really quick before I get started, we were blessed to have the exonerees stand up for us, but I think it's all due that we stand up for them. Please stand up for the exonerees here in the room today and give them a round of applause. If you're sitting next to an exoneree, give them a quick look and just say, I'm happy you're home. While we all sit here right now and we enjoy this meal and we enjoy this presentation, there are countless of men and women behind bars right now for crimes they didn't commit. And they don't have this luxury of sitting and having a meal with fine dining and laughter and rounds of applause because they're serving a sentence that they didn't deserve for a crime that they did not commit. And so this is why we're having this event today. I want to talk to you just a little bit about my story so you can further understand why I'm here today. In 2002, when I was 16 years old, I was 11th in the nation as a middle linebacker. I had just finished my junior year in high school, and I was being recruited by every university that you can think of. I was on my way to USC on a full scholarship. I had verbally committed before my senior year had even taken place. Life was on the up and up for me and my family. I'd be the first one to go to a university of that magnitude. So it was a big thing for us. In 2002, I made the decision to go to an area on my high school campus that was known as a makeout spot with a girl that I've known since middle school. And she and I made out, but we never had sex. And by the end of that day, I was accused and arrested for kidnapping and rape. July 8, 2002. July 8, 2002 was the last day that I saw freedom. I spent the next 5 years and 2 months in prison for a crime that I didn't commit. I spent 6 birthdays behind bars. My 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd birthday. I had an unfortunate opportunity of watching my teammates go on to receive scholarships to universities and play football. I had the unfortunate opportunity of watching my classmates go on to enjoy prom and walk across the stage as they received their diplomas and graduating from high school. And I had the unfortunate opportunity of watching some of my teammates, as well as guys that I played football with and went to camps with, play football on a big stage on TV, while I watched from a cell on a 9-inch black and white TV. This was my life for a crime that I did not commit. As I sat there in the cell, there was this thought that came over me that I had to be the only person who's experiencing something like this, that nobody else could understand what I was going through, that I couldn't talk to somebody, that I couldn't relate to anybody, because this was something that was so crazy and unexpected that it was something I felt nobody else was experiencing and going through. While I fought that case for a year, I fought for my innocence, and I fought for my freedom. And I always tell people when I do these speaking engagements, I know what it feels like to be wrongfully accused of a crime you didn't commit. I know what it feels like to be put in prison and to serve a time for a crime that you didn't commit. But what I don't know is how it feels to be a mother and to watch your 16-year-old child be stripped away from your arms and your protection. And that mother does all that she can to save her 16-year-old boy from the system. And everything that she does goes on deaf ears and goes unheard. My mother sold her car and she sold her house to obtain this attorney. And from day one, that attorney only wanted me to plead out to some sort of a deal. The first deal that they offered was 25 years in prison. The second deal was 18 years, and the third deal was 9 years. And my mother and I both said no to all of these deals that were coming my way because I was innocent and because I knew that I didn't belong behind bars. Well, a year into fighting this case, as I sat in a courtroom waiting to be seen in front of a judge, I was there that day to select a jury to go to trial. I was facing 41 years to life in prison, 17 years old now, and I had already been in jail for a year. And as I sat in that cell waiting to be seen in front of a judge, I was pulled out of this holding cell and put into an interview room. My lawyer came rushing into this room, and she sat down and looked at me from the other side of this glass, and she said to me, "Brian, I just came up with this amazing deal with the district attorney, and this is the deal that you have to take. I know I've been presenting all these other deals to you, but Brian, this is the deal that you have to take. And it's a good deal. Let me tell you what it is. If you plead no contest to 1 count of rape, you will go on a 90-day observation at Chino State Prison. And during those 90 days, you'd be interviewed by a psychologist and counselor, and they would determine on the ladder system whether you receive probation, 3 years, or 6 years in prison." Brian, listen, I promise you, and I guarantee you that you will get probation. At the most, you'll get a 3-year sentence. You already have a year time served. That means you only do about 18 more months. You can still be young and get out and play football, enjoy your family and your freedom. But Brian, listen to me and look at me when I'm telling you this. If you walk into that courtroom and you choose to fight this case, as soon as you walk into that courtroom, they will see you guilty because you're a big black teenager. And more than likely, this jury will be an all-white jury. And as soon as you walk in there, they will see you as a guilty man. So I'm asking you, do you want to take this plea and get this probation in 90 days, or do you want to risk it all and risk life in prison? And at the age of 17, I sat there and everything in me came out in tears. I cried and I asked why. And I asked, are you sure? And I asked, is there any other possibility? And I was told no. And so I said, okay, well, let me speak to my mom. She's on the other side of this wall here. Let me just get some advice from her, and maybe I can make this decision a little better. My lawyer looked at me and said, no, you can't talk to your mom because you're in adult court now, and so you need to make an adult decision. I had 10 minutes to make this decision. This wasn't something that I was allowed to go back to my cell and sleep on it and think about it. This wasn't a situation where I was able to speak to my mom or family or anybody and get advice on what I should do. I had 10 minutes to make this decision, 17 years old. To this day, I'm 28. To this day, the hardest decision that I've ever made in my entire life. Do I take a deal for something I didn't do? Or do I risk life in prison for something that I didn't do? I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to be free. I just wanted to play football. I didn't want to be in jail anymore. I just wanted to go home. And so at the age of 17, I took this deal. And as I walked into the courtroom, I remember walking into the courtroom and my family sat in the audience and they were waiting for me to come in and select this jury. Instead, I walked in and stood in front of a judge and said, I plead no contest. And I'm ready to accept whatever punishment you have for me for a crime I didn't commit. I went on this 90-day observation, and I was interviewed by a psychologist and counselor. They looked through the case, and they recommended that I get probation. They felt that I was in jail for something I didn't do. They saw right through the case. So with this favorable report, my mother and I, we had this sense of hope that everything would be okay after these 90 days, that I'd at least be able to come home on probation. I get back to court after 90 days. I appear in front of this judge, and this judge, as if driving through a fast food restaurant, he gave me 6 years, the higher term anyway, with no explanation, no reasoning, and he sent me on my way. I shared this story yesterday as I spoke. I remember going back into the holding cell of the courthouse, having been told that I was given 6 years in prison and I was to serve 85% of those 6 years. And I remember sitting inside of this holding cell, shaking uncontrollably, trying to add up the time that I had left to serve with two hands. And I'm shaking. And I'm trying to carry the two. And I'm trying to divide. And I'm trying to, okay, I did a year. That's 6 years, 85. Okay, that's 4 more years to go. Okay. And so I served a total of 5 years and 2 months. I came home when I was 22 in 2007. And I wanted to try and be the best that I could be and be better than the situation that was before me. And a part of me paroling and leaving prison also came with parole itself. And I was forced to wear a GPS tracking device on my ankle, which came with all types of restrictions and guidelines and so many crazy things. I couldn't live within 2,000 feet of any school or park. I had to register as a sex offender for the rest of my life. I had to plug this thing on my leg into a wall twice a day for an hour and a half, waiting for a red light to turn green. And if I let this thing on my leg, let the battery die, that was an automatic violation of my parole. How many times have you woke up in the morning, left your house and went on about your day and looked at your phone and realized you forgot to charge it last night? You got about 10% left. Can you imagine going back to prison or being sent to prison for not charging your phone the night before? So even on a good day, when I was able to forget about everything, I was reminded about it all as I came home at the end of the night, and I had to plug this thing back into a wall for an hour and a half. I had no social life. I couldn't find work. No one wanted to hire me. I'd go in and apply for a job, and they'd love me, my personality, my attitude. I was perfect for the job. But wait, one more question. Is there a criminal history that we should know about? Well, technically, it's not a history, it's a current. I'm currently on parole. I'm currently a registered sex offender. I currently have a GPS tracking device on my ankle. I have a parole officer who's going to want to meet you upon you hiring me. And I have no college education. Still want to hire me? Needless to say, it was impossible for me to find work. This was my life for 5 years after 5 years in prison. Well, 4 years going into this 5-year parole sentence, I received a Facebook friend request from a girl who had accused me of raping her 9 years ago, wanting to be my friend. And that friend request led to us meeting at a private investigation office where she admitted to lying about the entire thing. And her words were that we were just being young and curious and having fun, and people and teachers and so many other people got involved that it had nothing to do with her. She laughed about it as if it was a joke. Well, luckily, I was smart enough to turn on a videotape and record this entire meeting. And I took this tape and I went across maybe the entire world. And I got this tape and I'm going to every attorney on the internet and I'm saying, please, please, please help me. And when I say I went to every attorney, I'm getting online and I'm looking up top 100 lawyers in the nation. I'm looking up the best of the best and I'm saying, please help me. And the response that I got back was, you obviously have proof of your innocence, but we don't know how to do post-conviction work. We don't know how to write habeas petitions. This is not our line of work. Sorry, we can't help you. And so I contacted the Innocence Project in California, and I pled to them to help me. And the first thing they said to me was that we don't handle cases where guys have already finished their prison sentence. And I explained to them, every day that I have to register as a sex offender, wear this GPS on my ankle, and endure all the inhumane expectations that were imposed against me, I am forever an inmate. And they got that, and they understood. And they do post-conviction work, and they know how to write habeas petitions. And they took my case. And when they took my case, there was this sense of reassurance that I may get my life back because I knew about their work. And I knew about their work because their work is constantly talked about throughout the prison system. Everyone knows about the Innocence Project. And so I said to myself, if I get my life back, then I want to make sure that I take this small window of opportunity and do something with it. Because for the 10 years or the 9 years that I've been going through everything, all I ever wanted was an opportunity and a chance to be normal, to be free, to live a life. That's all I ever wanted. So if I get my life back, what am I going to do with it? And I thought about it and I thought about it. Well, football was something I had let go when I was in prison because, like I said, I had to sit there and watch my friends go on to receive scholarships and play. Some of them go on to the NFL, and it was too much for me, and I couldn't do it. So I stopped watching football, and I let the dream go a long time ago. But here I am now rethinking the idea, because if I get my life back, my dreams were something that was stripped away from me. It was taken away from me, along with my freedom. So guess what? If they give me my freedom back, I'm going for my dreams. Because I want my dreams more than anybody else could ever want them for me. And so, as Justin began fighting my case, I took myself into a gym and I started training. And I trained for an entire year that they fought my case. And on May 24th, 2012, Justin and I walked into a courtroom, and we heard something that the DA normally doesn't say, and that's, we concede. They chose not to even fight the case because they saw that I was innocent. Finally. Bittersweet. Bittersweet. It's all over now. And now my family and I, we can begin to heal. But it's bitter because I had to go through 10 years of this struggle for something that I didn't do, just for it all to be over in a matter of seconds in a courtroom with no apology. Well, I walked out of that courtroom and everybody said, "What's next? What's next?" as the cameras gathered around. And I said, "I want to play football." And Justin chimed in and he said, "This guy's been working his butt off. And if there's anybody that you should give a chance, it's this guy here. Guarantee he'd outwork anybody on your team right now." And the following day, I got a phone call, and I answered the phone, and a man's voice said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a linebacker. You know where I can find one?" And I said, "Yeah, well, yeah, you got the right number, but who is this?" He says, "It's Coach Pete Carroll, now head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, but the same coach that recruited me when he was at USC." And here we were again, trying to pick back up where we left off. And he said to me, "I don't know what you can do. You've been out of the game 10 years. I know this is a long shot, but I'm gonna fly you out here and see what you can do." And he flew me out, and I tried out, and he loved what he saw. They were so surprised at what I was able to do being out of the game for 10 years. They invited me back for camp, but then chose not to sign me. But that didn't stop me from my dreams. That didn't stop me from pursuing what I knew was mine. And so I tried out with 5 other NFL teams before eventually signing with the Atlanta Falcons. And after 10 years, 5 years on parole, 5 years and 2 months in prison, here I am, an NFL player, and I've taken my dreams back. I share the story because every single exoneree has a dream. They had goals and things that they wanted to accomplish and do before they were taken off of this free world, unwillingly. We just wanted to be like everybody else and live a good life, or try the best that we could to live a good life. If it wasn't for Justin and the Innocence Project, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be up here talking to you. The exonerees in this room would not be here today if it wasn't for the Illinois Innocence Project. And so it's important that we realize the importance of this project. It's important that we as a community come together and support the Illinois Innocence Project. They need us. And the people behind bars need them. The Illinois Innocence Project is a nonprofit organization that works solely off of grants, small grants from the government, and the rest comes from the community through donations. It takes these donations to spread the wings of the Illinois Innocence Project so that we can bring more men and women home from prison for crimes that they did not commit. Like I said, when I first started talking, as I sat in prison and I thought to myself that I was the only one who was going through something like this, when Justin took on my case and I remember him, the first time he invited me to the headquarters, to the office. He said, "Come on down, I want you to meet everybody." I walked in and I started looking at the walls and I'm seeing pictures of exonerees and I'm seeing stacks of case files. And then a few months later, I was invited to the Innocence Project Network, the national convention that they hold every year. This year it was in North Carolina. It was my first year. And I walked into this setting just like this. And I was in a room with over 150 exonerees. Men and women who had served 35 years, 30 years, 27, 19, 2 for crimes that they didn't commit. And it tore me apart. I realized how this was so much bigger than me in my situation, that I was not the only one who had gone through something like this, but there were countless of others who have gone through what I went through, and there are thousands of others who are in prison right now, innocent, and hoping and praying to come home. And they're not the only ones praying and hoping. Their families are doing the same thing. Their friends are doing the same thing, because it doesn't just affect the person in prison. It affects the people who love that person. If it wasn't for the Innocence Project, we would not be here today. And if it's not for the Innocence Project, the people who are in prison right now more than likely will not come home. So, really quick, I know usually we, as people, we have a moment of silence for people who have passed. But I'm asking today that we have a moment of silence for those who are still in prison for crimes they didn't commit, because being in prison for something you didn't do is living death. As you watch the world pass you by, and your children and your family members grow without you, and the disconnection begins. So please, just a moment of silence for those in prison, for the crimes they didn't commit. This work is so important for me. I vowed to myself that I would turn right around upon my release and help those like I was helped. When I was in a hole and I had my hands up in the air and I was asking for somebody to help me, the Innocence Project reached in that hole and they pulled me out. And so now I'm turning around and I'm putting 2 hands in that hole because I want to pull more people out. And I'm asking everyone in this room to put both of your hands in that hole and pull somebody out. Because you'd want the same if it was you. And you'd want the same if it was a family member or a friend of yours. You'd want their help. I would like to invite the exonerees here onto stage with me. If you all will give them a round of applause, please. dreams do come true. When at one point dreams were just to have a normal life and to get a good job and to maybe raise a good family, those dreams turned into, I just want to come home. So I want to thank those who have helped bring these beautiful people home. Please, all the staff members of the Illinois Innocence Project, please come to the stage. Please give them a round of applause. Bear with me. God is good. All the time. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this man, Justin Brooks. Please come to the stage, sir. And last but definitely not the least, we got some young, hungry, excited, and powerful young people that want to bring people home, that have signed up for the job and the task to do it. Please, students of the Illinois Innocence Project, please come to the stage. As well as the law school. Please come to the stage. Family. When at one point we felt like we were by ourselves as we sat in a cell. Family. Please, if you can, if you're able, with your hard-earned dollars, donate to the Illinois Innocence Project. We need you, our community. It starts with you. You are now aware that we need your help. Nobody can play ignorant in here. Okay? So thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this.
Little brother.
Thank you.
I was asked to come up here and let you know what Illinois Innocence Project is all about. I can't say much more than what's here and what's on the video. All I can tell you is that each and every one of us have lost many, many things, and we want to pay it forward to try and help others not to go through with what we did. So I am begging you, please show your support and help the others that need your guidance and your support. On the tables, you will see that there are some envelopes. If you can, please do what you can do. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you.
Keep standing, keep standing. Let's keep giving them a hand again, please. I'm going to close with a chant that I used at a speech one time. The time is now to stand up and fight. The time is now to do what's right. The time is now to take a stand. The time is now to do what we all can. Thank you all so much. Complete the envelopes and support our Innocence Project. Good night.
you.